What's up, sprinters? Welcome back to another educational video. Today I'm going to be giving you all of the information that I know about jungling, being a runner-up to the Pokemon Unite World Championship, and multiple-time top 100 on the global leaderboard. Let's get right into it. Hey guys, real quick before we get into the video, about 70% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you're enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell so that you can stay up to date for whenever a new video drops. Peace. Alright, so let's talk about the thing we all know and love, the thing that your junglers just do not do. Or maybe they do, and they do it incorrectly. And this is rotations. So, I went over this a little bit in the macro guide. If you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. There'll be a link down in the description below to the macro guide. But in essence, rotations, as we went over, are just how you move around the map and where you're going to objectives, right? So, and to even simplify it further, you know, top to bot, bot to top. You come from here, you go all the way up here, that's a rotation, essentially. So that being said, if you are playing jungle, you need to understand your job and how to rotate. Now, your job as a jungler, because you're getting the majority of the XP on the map, and there's a very good chance you're hitting level 9 for the first objective, you need to be at that first objective. You cannot be late, because if you are late and the enemy jungler isn't, you lose that fight. So, that being said, the most important objective in the game, in the early game, is Regieleki. Another reason why I clear towards topside. I start my clear on topside. Because let's say I do my clear, but I'm not super efficient because I've been getting kills or whatever. Let's say I go up top at 7 minutes and I'm 8 3/4. Well, I know because I started topside, my red buff is going to be respawning. I can afford to leave for 5 seconds to secure my red buff and head back into the lane to get my level 9. Right? That is something that you are allowed to do as a jungler. That is something that is completely fine. Now, granted, there are conditions behind that, such as the enemy team not ripping the objective. The enemy team is ripping objective, you're not allowed to leave. So, as a jungler, you need to be rotating to the most important objective on the map. That'll be this objective. That'll be the top objective. So you'll come up here, you'll team fight, you'll do the objective, and then from then on, your job varies. So what you should be doing as a jungler, provided you get the objective, you want to look to score your points. You need to score your points, you need your XP, you need to get as far ahead as possible before Rayquaza. That is your job. Your job is to farm, get XP, do damage, and become this most menacing force that you can be before the 2-minute mark on the clock. That being said, we take the Relicy. Let's say we already broke the tier 1, so the Relicy is pushing the tier 2. So, our job, we're going to try and get this in. We have our team around us. They're coming to help us push this in. The enemy team doesn't have ults. We have like 2 ults. So we get it in. You score your 40 points. Because you're level 9, you're going to have points. Probably 40. So you score your 40 points on the tier 2 pad. And then from there, I covered this in my macro video. Your team is going to be going through the jungle to take their camps. You, as a jungler, need to be instantly hitting that recall button and going back into your jungle. Reason being, there's still an objective bot side. So this is where efficiency again comes into play, because you need to be, in a sense, hyper efficient as a jungler. Because once you score here, you can't waste time. You're looking for the closest bush that's safe, right? So whether the closest bush, the safest bush is here or here or here, you are looking for the closest area that is safe that you can recall in so that you can go back and start clearing your jungle once more. Again, because we're going to the bot objective this time, your red buff probably respawned if you had to take it for this fight. it's definitely been over a minute since the take of the Regieleki and the score. That being said, you want to do a C clear, starting from your red buff, down to your blue buff, and exit through the bot side of your jungle. Reason being, again, it's all dependent on where you leave your jungle and where you're headed to on the map. You want to spend the least time in your jungle as possible and the most time on the map as possible. You need presence. So, that being said, if you were to clear your blue buff first and went up, you're just going down here anyway because there's an objective here, so you're just wasting an extra 4 seconds. So you want to C clear from your red buff down to your blue buff, exit bot side, and regroup with your team who just came down through their jungle and maybe took their pad or at least tried to score some points. And now you guys are ready to regroup and take this bottom objective. Rotations are very, very important in the game of Unite. Let's say there's a situation where we've all had this. We're ready to come up and fight the Regieleki, and then it's 7 o'clock and our Cinderace is down here. This is not okay. As a jungler, you need to be, you are the most important piece on the map. You have been fed all of the XP. You have been given all of the opportunity. You need to take all of that and you need to translate it into something. Because you can farm to level 15, but it doesn't matter if you do nothing with it. That's why we get the triple clear, we get the bees, we get our level 9 and we go up. So that way we can use our ult, or Unite move, to secure the objective and push it down and just keep snowballing this massive lead that we're creating. And it all starts with this triple clear. But that being said, once you do all this, you go back to your jungle, you exit bot side, you take this objective, you crash this pad, right? Maybe you crash this pad, potentially, but not usually. Then by the time all that's said and done, this is going to be on like maybe a 45-second or 30-second timer. You'll have just enough time to be able to do another clear and exit topside to be at this objective. So you can see where this is going, right? The general consensus for rotations as a jungler: you take the objective, you do what you have to do, you back, you do your jungle. You go down here, you do the next objective. You back, you do your jungle. You go up here, you back, you do your jungle. And it's just a constant cycle of backing to farm your jungle after you've taken the objective or after you are not needed. And by not needed, if there are 4 people of your team up here and there's like no one on the enemy team up here and your jungle's respawning, your team doesn't need you. Just take your jungle. You're fine, right? Just go regroup with them when they go to push. That's all. But in essence, as a jungler, you are the carry. You're being fed all the farm. You need to go where your team needs you. And that will always be, at 7 minutes, the Regieleki. So now that we've talked about rotations, we did talk about team fighting a little bit around objectives, but we didn't go in depth. So that's what we're going to do now. So when it comes to team fighting, there's one very, very important thing to know. This varies, the way you team fight varies from jungler to jungle, but the one thing constantly remains the same. You cannot die. Death equals bad. The reason for this is Pokemon Unite has a very fun experience system. Comeback XP is really, really strong. If you are a level 13 Cinderace, and let's say you die to a level 9 Machamp, that Machamp is now going to be level 12. That's how much XP you give him from dying. Because of this, as jungle, it is very, very important not to die. Because you're getting all of this XP inside of here. You are going to be the highest level in the map consistently throughout the game. Meaning that if you die, whoever you die to gets a bunch of XP and makes things very hard. So how do we not die? Well, especially when there's so many team fights going on. And the answer to that is positioning. Positioning is the most important thing in a team fight that you can realistically abuse. So, what we need to understand is how a team fight is supposed to play out and where everyone is supposed to be. So, this is just going to be a general concept. It's going to apply differently inside the game. There's going to be a whole bunch of different situations, but regardless, this is a general concept. Let's say there's a line here, right? On each side of the line, you have your front line, right? These guys stand in the front. These are your tanky characters like Snorlax, Wigglytuff, Blissey. Things that, you know, Mr. Mime. Things that tank for your team. Then you have kind of your supporting pieces. So, for example, you'll have your mid line. Oh, what just happened here? Hold on. Technical difficulties. So you'll have your mid line. And what that usually consists of is people that can either help the front line, either by supporting it with maybe stat boosts or heals like Hoopa or Blissey, or you will have things that can follow up on the initial engage. So, for example, let's say you have Snorlax as your front line. This piece being a Cramorant with Surf can follow up on the Snorlax Slam Engage with a Surf combo and potentially insta-kill somebody. That being said, there are a lot more situations of this, not just Snorlax Cram. For example, like Wiggly goes in and lands asleep. Really, these can be anybody that's close enough to support the engage and follow up on the engage, whether it's landing additional crowd control or just doing a massive amount of damage. And so you'll have that on either side. And then we look at the back line. So the back line is where your carries are sitting, right? So, for example, this is a Cinderace. This is a Greninja, right? Very, very easy concept to understand. This is where your very low health, high damage carries are sitting. So, you know, you'll have a Delphox in the back line. You'll have a Cinderace. You'll have Greninja. You'll have, you know, insert character here, Duraludon, right? They want to be behind their tank, behind their midline, because the midline can help support them just as much as they can help support them. So, that being said, as a carry in the jungle, unless you're playing something like a Talonflame, a standard jungle such as Cinder, Duraludon, Greninja, you're going to be playing in the backline of the teamfight. Your job as the backline is not to kill the enemy backline. Your job as the backline is to hit this. You want to hit this as much as you can. Your job is to do damage to the enemy front line so that the enemy front line can't go forward and engage. So the importance of having this sort of setup where you have your front line, midline, and back line, you want your back line to be able to hit for free. Your midline supports, because the enemy backline is going to be doing the same thing, so your midline supports your tank in keeping them up and keeping them alive and healthy and happy, while your backline supports by dealing a bunch of damage to their front line, and that's, in essence, what a team fight should look like. There's a whole lot more complicated mess involved in it, but as a generalization, that is what it should look like. So, this is where this comes in. Well, this game isn't really that simple. This map is not that simple. There isn't just a line that we fight and call it a day. Or is there? So let's take a look. Regieleki is here. This is 7 minutes on the clock, right? Okay, we have both pads up. Well, there's your line. Right down the middle. The enemy owns this side of the line. You own this side of the line. Right? Now, granted, this is an imaginary line, but it is there nonetheless. So that being said, your tank's somewhere around here, your midline somewhere around here, and your backline somewhere around here. And it's mirrored on the opposite side. And you're going to see this every single game. If you really pay attention to it, you're going to see it every single game. Now, there are going to be people that are out of position or whatever, But the important thing here is to note your positioning, because this is how you carry a fight as a jungler. So, that being said, your positioning as a jungler, as a carry, you need to be able to hit the enemy front line without taking damage and without dying, without getting caught out. You need to be behind your front line at all times. As a generalization, there are times where you can dive the enemy backline, but I'll do another video on that because that's a more advanced concept. This is just a generalization. You want to be behind your front line. That is the most important place for you to be, is back here, behind your front line. You don't want to be in engage range of a Snorlax or a Wiggly. You definitely don't want to be melee range like we see the Cinders in solo queue all the time do. You want to be in your backline. You want to be able to hit what's in front of you, and you want to be able to give yourself options. If someone comes to flank you, you want to be able to run forward to your team, and you're able to do that because you're not in the front line. Right? You can regroup with your team. You want to be able to run back to pad so that Lucario can't kill you, and you can do that because you're not pushed up here with your tank. So that being said, the most important thing for team fighting as a jungler is to be very, very mindful of your position. Because if you die, you're giving up the enemy a lot of XP that they otherwise wouldn't have. So just be mindful of your positioning every single time you go to a team fight, an objective, even when you're walking around the map. As a squishy carry with a lot of XP, you don't want to just be walking on this side of the map when you don't know where the enemy team is, you don't have any teammates with you. This is a scary situation. Just take the extra few seconds, come around to this side. If you're walking down bot lane, just come down the safe way. There's no reason to go this way, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna die. But in essence, stay behind your tanks and do damage. Don't die. That's the job. That's all you really need to focus on when it comes to team fighting as a jungler and being mindful of your positioning. Okay, so let's take a look at what I meant by team fighting positioning and how to play out team fights. So, as we discussed, there's the line, both sides, front line, back line, mid line. So we can see a good example of this here. So if I pause, I'm staying in this bush right here. I wish I had my epic pen, but I'm staying in the bush in the bottom right while I wait for my front line and my mid line to walk up and clear the bushes for me. Because if I step in and face check these bushes, this is a very, very bad time. I'm going to get caught out and potentially even die. So, waiting for them to clear the bushes, we walk up here. We see the mime come in. So, our team, you'll see shortly, starts to walk up to the right. I know the mime's here. I know I can't go this way or it's instant death. So what I have to do, because the mime showed, I have to walk all the way around the pit and take the safe way. It makes me go to the fight a little bit late, but I have to respect the mime or else I'm not going to be in the fight at all. We see the mime followed me and is trying to chase me down. And, you know, even ults on top of me. I get the full heal, dodge his abilities, and he just dies for free. We end up winning the initial fight. So that's an example of good positioning, right? We wait for the front line to walk up to the bush and clear the bushes. As soon as we see a threat, we know we can't go into the small choke where it's going to kill us. So we have to walk all the way around, regroup with our team, and still, again, that entire fight, if we go back, you can see right here, we're still behind our back line, or our front line. We're hitting what's in front of us, we're behind the tank, and we're in a safe spot. So let's take a look at an example of poor positioning. So, shortly after this mime dies, we see our Slowbros up here, our Espeon's right here, and, you know, at this point we're looking to kind of just tap the objective to bring them in and finish off the fight. So we start tapping the objective, and then our Espeon makes a very, very fatal error. Our Espeon is going first. We see the Cinderace here, and is going first without seeing anyone else on the map to face check this Cinderace in front of the tank. So as we see, Espeon ends up getting caught up by the Cinderace and the Delphox ult, and ends up getting taken down. On top of that, look at how 3 of us are stacked here. This is very, very dangerous. I already used my flame charge in trying to respond to the fight that was going on, which was a mistake. And now we're in a very poor position. We see there's Cinder here, but our Slowbro doesn't have Surf. So we have no way of locking this guy down. We see their tree here, and we know their Delphox is down here off of screen. So just watch how this fight plays out. I Blaze kick in, pop my ultimate because it got reset earlier, and, well, death screen. And this was all from flame charging in right here. Flame charged in to try and react to this fight, try and help out, and it ended up getting me killed. And the core concept here is our Espeon didn't stay behind our front line, and neither did I. Our front line was forced to back up due to the insane amount of damage that they were taking. The Espeon and I did not respect that. We ended up taking the front line ourselves, getting a little too ahead of ourselves, and ended up getting taken down in the process. Alright, so the last thing we have to talk about in this guide is being flexible and understanding the game state. Now, I have a clip that will play shortly after this where you'll see me go up for this objective as a jungler, and we'll take this pad, and then we'll take this pad with the Reggie. But instead of recalling to go do my jungle like we had previously discussed, I end up pathing down through the jungle to go to this pad and start doing this objective. That is because every single game, things change. There is no clear-cut way to play Pokemon Unite. There is only a set of guidelines that you can use and adapt those on the fly. So, for example, the triple clear. That is a hard set-in-stone thing that you can do every single game. Right? You have the ability, you have it within your control to do this every single game. What you can't control is how long it will take to take this objective, how long it will take to push this objective, and what time you'll be backing to get your jungle after this all happens. There are variables involved that tend to throw off timings and whatever, and that's okay. So, that being said, you have to have the ability to be flexible and adapt on the fly if you're playing jungle. There are going to be times where you crash this pad and then you end up heading down here. There are going to be times where you crash this pad and you end up having to go back and defend this pad. There are times where you go from this pad straight to mid. There are times when you go to this pad straight back to your base and into your jungle. It all depends on the game state. And the way I could sit here for hours explaining countless game states to you and what you should be doing in each of them, but really the best way to go and learn is to just play and experience for yourself and really think about what you should be doing at any given time. If you have any questions about that, feel free to give me a detailed explanation in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you guys may have. But that being said, we'll go over the clip and I'll explain what I did and why. Okay, so I talked a little bit about flexibility, and this is what I mean. This is a continuation from the clip earlier in the video where I showed you guys the triple clear. So what happens here, we get out of our jungle, we're almost level 9, you know, maybe we need a ball toy, but the enemy team's not showing up. We've already taken the tier 1 pad, so this objective is pretty free to take. We see the Delphox gets a little scary, but we haven't used Solar Beam, so it's not too worrying. At this point, I'm level 9, I have 40 points, I really want to get this Regieleki in. We have 3 ults in Espeon, Mew, and Cinderace, so we're looking to push this pad as hard as we possibly can. Regieleki goes in, we take down the Charmeleon, we score our points. Now here, this Cinderace, I want you guys to pay very close attention to this Cinderace. So right now, he's down here, off of screen, almost, you can see his health bar, while we're scoring. So he comes in to try and fight with the Espeon instead of coming up behind his tank. This allows us to completely turn onto the Cinderace. We lose Espeon in the process, but Cinder ends up getting taken down for it. Now if we go back earlier in the video and think about what I said about a jungler's job, you cannot die. That kill, because it's on the jungler, a high priority target, is worth a lot of XP. So that being said, I still have to run away from the enemy Trevenant. So I come down through the jungle, and I see my team pushing their bot pad. So it's like, okay, I can come down here, I can get my 14 points, and I can kill whoever walks up and steps out of position, like this Charmeleon here. Now, after this, I end up just taking Registeel and going back to farm the jungle. But the concept behind it is that not everything is by the book. You can adapt on the fly, be flexible. If the enemy Cinderace gets caught out, steps out of position, don't be afraid to just go and jump on him, send him back to spawn, and continue on your way. It all falls under being as efficient as possible, and it's really something that it's very, very difficult to go in depth and explain, but as you play the game over time and you experience more and more of these different types of situations, you'll be able to adapt correctly in your game and realize what you should be doing at any given point throughout a game. Thank you guys so much for watching my jungle guide. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn the bell on for more educational content like this, because we're going to be pumping out a whole lot of it on the channel. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.